So literally seconds before I started filming, I managed to poke myself in the eye with a mascara brush. So we'll see how this goes. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Inside number 23, my podcast which is all about knitting and sewing and generally living the craftiest life possible. My name is Katie and you can find me pretty much everywhere on social media as Miss Lavelli, although as I always say I am most active on Instagram. You can also find us at the Inside number 23 Ravelry group. Just head over to the groups tab on Ravelry, search Inside number 23 and you'll find a group filled with, if I do say so myself, amazing individuals, and that's where you can get involved in things like giveaways and KALs and all of that good stuff. If you do want to contact me regarding the podcast, then please feel free to drop me an email. My email is katie@insidenumber23.com, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. A huge welcome back to any of my long-term viewers, and a big hello and welcome if this is your first time visiting with me. I really appreciate you spending a little bit of time with me so we can talk about all of the lovely yarny, stitchy type things. I'm coming to you as always from Hertfordshire, which is just north of London, where I live with my husband Emrys and our little pug puppy Rolly, and I'm just super excited to be here with you this week. This is the first week ever of our new recording schedule. So this is the first Friday episode of Inside number 23. Woo, Friday! From now onwards, all of the podcasts will be uploaded on Friday, and yeah, I'm really excited about it. Because this is the first week of Friday uploads, this may be a little bit on the short side, this episode, because obviously it's been significantly less than a week since I last uploaded, so I haven't had a huge amount of time to get a lot of crafty bits and pieces done. But I do have some fun things to share with you, so we do have a nice bit of content, I would say, but bear in mind I've been a little bit squished for time. I am happy to say that my neck pain that I was experiencing over the last couple of weeks is almost completely gone. I'm really excited about that. It has enabled me to complete a project, a very special project that I'll be talking about later, and just kind of gently start getting back into knitting, which has been an absolute joy. So thank you so much to everybody who expressed concern about that and who sent love. It was very much appreciated. But yeah, got all of the movability back in the neck. Everything is good. Also, it is now my second week at my new job at Tilly and the Buttons, and thank you so much to everybody who has again sent such lovely positive comments and love and excitement about this. I am hugely excited, and I can honestly say I feel happier in the last couple of weeks than I have done in a very long time. So yay, it's all good. And yeah, just thank you as always for your love and support of me and the podcast, and you guys are you're just amazing. You blow me away. Right, before we get on to all of the kind of crafty content proper, I do have the exciting announcement of a KAL winner. I am hosting the Harry Potter KAL on this podcast, which is a year-long knit-along running throughout 2017, in which I draw prizes at the end of each month. I'm very excited to announce the winner of last month, because can you believe it's August? I'm a little bit overwhelmed that it's August, and to be perfectly honest, the weather outside is a lot more wintry than it is summery here in the UK at the moment. But all of that to one side, I do have a winner from the July entries for the Harry Potter KAL. Thank you so much to everybody who entered. I believe we had nearly 300 people enter this last month with some gorgeous projects, so thank you to everybody. But I drew a winner at random this morning, and I'm happy to say that the winner is post number 114, who is Lottie. And congratulations, Lottie. Your Ravelry name, which I'm now going to butcher, I believe is Lottie Kenahan. I think that that's right. If not, obviously I apologise. And Lottie actually knitted up a beautiful pair of socks with the most incredible hot pink heels. I love those, Lottie. I know you said that you really like them. I love them too. And let me show you what you have won. I'm so excited about this prize. You have won this incredible project bag, which was kindly donated by Misty Mountain Maid. I love it. It has the Hogwarts Castle, and in addition to that, I am going to also pop in these stitch markers and progress keeper from Bijou Garden Gifts. It's a lovely selection of Harry Potter themed stitch markers and a progress keeper. These together I think are a really, really beautiful prize. So thank you again to the lovely people who consistently donate prizes to the Harry Potter KAL. It's an absolute pleasure to have your beautiful things on the podcast. And a huge congratulations to Lottie. Yay, Lottie! If you could drop me an email as soon as possible with your contact information, I will endeavour to get these in the post for you ASAP. So we're going to start things off this week, as always, with a little bit of what am I wearing. And I am wearing a hand knit sweater this week that hasn't actually made an appearance on the podcast for a little while because we've been in summer and I haven't really had a huge opportunity to wear the majority of the sweaters that I have knit, be it recently or a little bit longer ago. I'm babbling, let's talk about this sweater. So of course you're going to recognise this. This is my Pavement sweater, which is a beautiful pattern by Veera Välimäki. And I knit this with a selection of yarns which were dyed up by my lovely friend Maria of Tusken Knits. And this is actually her Fuzz base, which is a superwash merino and mohair blend. So it has the most beautiful halo. I am going to stand up to show it to you in a little bit more detail. So if you'll remember, or you may not if you're not a regular viewer of the podcast, I used two colours. This is the Pigwigeon colourway, and this beautiful dusky pink was called Just a Rose. It was one of the colours that Maria dyed for the Beauty and the Beast film that was brought out recently. I striped these up and I think they look gorgeous. I also finished the cuffs in the Just a Rose colourway and the hem of the sweater, which is a lovely curved hem. I adore this sweater. I know on a regular basis I say that I want to have kind of 100 different versions of, be it a dress or a top that I've made or something that I've knitted, but the Pavement sweater genuinely I think is an incredible pattern to knit. I think I knit this up in the space of about 2 weeks, probably less than 2 weeks, because although it's done in a fingering weight yarn, it's done at a very open gauge, so you can kind of see the stitches are not particularly tight, which means that it flies off the needles. And I think with a really nice selection of yarn, which I was lucky enough to have with this project, it's just an absolute joy. Really, really great beginner's project as well, because it is all done in the round. There's very little shaping on it because it's very loose. It's designed to have quite a lot of ease, and it is a joy to wear. And I definitely want this sweater in at least kind of 3 other colours. I love it so much, and I'm really happy that today it's kind of the right kind of weather that I can wear it. So yay! Moving on from what I'm wearing, we're going to jump straight in to what's on my needles. And what's on my needles this week is a little bit funny. Like I said, I've just gotten over kind of a little bit of neck pain that had prevented me from doing very much knitting at all. And so when that started to ease up, what I needed to do was basically work on one particular project, which was a gift knit. Now, if you've been watching my podcast over the last couple of weeks, you will know that this knit was the I Heart Rainbows sweater, which is a gorgeous pattern by Tin Can Knits. I really can't speak more highly of Tin Can Knits. I know that it's well known that they are incredible at what they do in terms of pattern creation. This particular pattern is a really, really sweet baby sweater, which has a Fair Isle pattern of hearts around the yoke and also a little bit of rainbow striping, and it was an absolute pleasure to knit. But I was on a deadline for this project because I have never said who it was for before today, and that's because it's actually a gift for my new employer Tilly of Tilly and the Buttons, who is expecting her first baby. And we at work, when I was offered the job, I was told that we would be having a baby shower for Tilly quite soon after I started, and I wanted to make sure that she had something hand knitted for the baby because what better gift for a little baby than something cute and hand knitted? And so crazily I cast one on within days of being offered the job and finished the day before the baby shower. But the sweater has now been given to Tilly. She very much liked it. It was lovely to finally have it reach its new home, and obviously I can't wait for little baby buttons to be able to wear this sweater. I am going to insert a couple of pictures of the finished object. It was a really, really, really fun knit, and particularly by the time you get to the sleeves and you're just zipping around. I think I finished both the sleeves over 2 evenings of knitting, which is probably maybe 6 hours of knitting in total, probably less. The yarn I used, the majority of the yarn, was a Sirdar yarn, which is an acrylic based yarn, which I thought was perfect for the baby knit. It was actually a really, really fun yarn to use. I must admit, when it comes to knits for myself, I'm still very much a bit of a yarn snob, and I don't think I will be knitting any garments or anything like that for myself in acrylic anytime soon. But it's definitely a really, really great yarn for baby knits, something that's quite versatile, that's easy to wash for people that don't necessarily use a lot of hand knitted garments on a regular basis. It can be quite stressful, I think, to suddenly think, oh, I have to hand wash it and dry it like this. And I wanted it to be a special gift, but also something functional that, you know, Tilly wouldn't be terrified about popping in the washing machine. So I really love how it turned out. I also love that the kind of colour scheme was very 70s, 80s-esque. It reminds me of Care Bears and that type of thing, and I was just so thrilled. It is quite stressful, both knitting for a baby and kind of gift knitting, because I have gift knitted before, but not very recently, and I've never knit a baby garment before, so the whole process was interesting. I do tend to put a lot of pressure on myself, like I said, for these type of things, but to see the kind of happiness that that little sweater brought made it all worthwhile, and I'm just so thrilled with how it turned out, and genuinely happy that I managed to get it finished and all ready to give at the baby shower, which incidentally was a really, really lovely time, and yet one of the many reasons why I've been so happy in my new job. That is the only thing that I have to share for what's on my needles this week. I have been putting some more time in on the Oracle shawl. It's still not finished, but the pattern is now available. That is the Oracle shawl by Kristen of Veera Yarns, and I'm going to put a link to the pattern in my show notes, which you can find just down below, because it's an incredible pattern. You should definitely get hold of one for yourself and cast one on, and congratulations, Kristen, for publishing such a beautiful shawl pattern. I'm sure that everybody is going to want one, and I really can't wait to get mine finished so that I can wear it, because I just adore it to its very bones, even though it doesn't have bones because it's a shawl. Although I may not have a huge amount for what's on my needles, I do have a cheeky little bit of stash enhancement this week. I have really kind of 3 things to share with you. 3 things, I would say. One was ordered as a little treat for myself because I couldn't help myself, but the other bits were actually purchased at Fibre East. I visited Fibre East just over a week ago with my beautiful friends Amy and Nikki. We caught up with some gorgeous individuals there. I chatted with Tracy from Nora George. Always a joy to see you, Tracy. Caught up with Ellie of the Skeins podcast. It was just lovely. We met loads of lovely viewers and just sat and knitted and enjoyed ourselves. It was really, really nice to go to an event as well where Amy wasn't vending, because she's been super, super busy recently with her Stranded Dye Works, her business. And so to go to an event like that where she wasn't vending and we could just kind of mill around and relax was absolutely lovely. Always a joy to spend time with my yarny friends. But I did make a few purchases whilst at Fibre East, even though I was on a strict budget after having indulged so much, as you can see kind of behind me, at POM Fest, which was a few weeks before. and I do have more yarn than a person could really knit in a lifetime, if I'm very, very honest with myself. But I did have a couple of projects kind of lurking in the back of my mind that I wanted to buy some yarn for, so I may have made some cheeky purchases. But before I get on to what I bought at Fibre East, I did want to share with you a very cheeky little purchase that I made because of my experiences at PomFest. Now, you may or may not remember that one of the vendors that I completely fell head over heels in love with at PomFest was lovely Nathan of Twisted Fintch Designs. I love Nathan. I was absolutely thrilled to be able to meet him in person at PomFest. He was generous enough to give me some skeins of his yarn to try out, and I also purchased this lovely colourway. Let me just pop this out. This green, which when I recorded after PomFest and shared my haul and put this yarn up to my face, when I was looking through in editing and kind of going through everything, I just thought this green is everything and I need this in my life. So when Nathan announced that he was going to be doing a shop update relatively soon after PomFest, and that this colour was going to be included, I kind of lost my mind a little bit and may have ordered a sweater's quantity. Now, I must admit, there are about 3 or 4 different colourways that Nathan dyes that I could very easily see myself buying a sweater's quantity of at some point in the future. He is so talented, and his colours, kind of his aesthetic, I guess, and his colour schemes are just right up my alley. He has my number, but this just stole my heart. But there was one particular garment that I had been wanting to cast on for a while, and as soon as I saw this colourway and how beautiful it was, I thought I really, really need to get a sweater's quantity for this particular project. So having a project in mind made me feel less guilty about kind of biting the bullet. And that project is a gorgeous tee which is called Tegna. Now, Tegna is by Caitlin Hunter. I have seen this across various podcasts and Instagram posts from people who I absolutely adore their style. It's quite a loose fitting tee. It has a relatively large amount of positive ease in it, but it's slightly cropped in terms of the length, and then it has this gorgeous lace panel around the border. And although I love a good speckled yarn, you can see behind me I have a really good selection of speckled yarns. I really wanted to knit this up in a beautiful kind of solid or just slightly variegated colour. And, you know, Nathan's yarn was calling my name. So, yeah, this happened. Oh, so gorgeous. This yarn is everything. So the colour, which I still really don't know how to pronounce, so I'm so sorry, Nathan. I believe it's Huichi. I just think of it as this gorgeous kind of, it's walking the line between a forest green and an emerald green, and I love it. And I just think in that tee, this is going to be amazing. So the lace work on that pattern is pretty much the only bit of interest. Other than that, it's just a glorious stockinette stitch, and I just think that this yarn is going to look incredible because the yarn's going to do the talking, and I love what it's saying right now. I'm listening to its conversation and I am enthralled and engaged, and I want to listen to it do the talking all day. This is so my kind of colour. I think I've kind of steered myself away from greens for a little while. I am very much the type of person who you'll see reaching for burgundies, but I forget just how happy green makes me. And as always, I'm absolutely over the moon to have more of Nathan's yarn. I think, to be honest, I may have more of Nathan's yarn than almost any other dyer in my stash at the moment, because this puts me up to 7 skeins of Twisted Fintch. which isn't bad for going from nothing to 7 skeins over a very short amount of time. I think probably the only person that I have more of currently is Amy, and that's because I have a sweater's quantity of stranded in my stash just behind me here as well. But I do think that that's a very, very good thing to have so much yarn of these people that I absolutely adore. But yes, Nathan, thank you for being incredible. I'm just so thrilled that I managed to nab these skeins from your update. And for those of you who are interested, this is actually a 4-ply in comparison to the DK that I bought at Pomfest, and this is the Finch 4-ply, which is just a 75/25 superwash merino nylon. I've put it behind me, look. So going on to what I bought at Fibre East, one of my more amusing purchases at Fibre East was a kind of matching purchase to Nikki of the Tea and Possibilities podcast. We both saw these particular items and couldn't resist taking one home. I'm so happy that I have it, and it's this rather incredible basket. Now, these I believe are hand woven, and I'm not entirely sure where. I think they're woven in Ghana, and if that's wrong, please correct me, but I love this. It smells incredible. Nikki was rather affectionately calling hers her hipster hipster basket, and I completely agree. I went for one that had a lot of pink because I love the pink, but also a little bit of kind of pumpkin colouring going on around the bottom with the orange and green. I think this is gorgeous. I'm going to fill this up with my hand knit socks because my socks are currently living in a hat box, which I believe Emrys got for me as a birthday present a couple of years ago, but it's a bit battered now. So I thought this would be perfect. And it smells incredible. I love it so much. It's got this really gorgeous handle. I do think it would be great for taking to the shops and that type of thing, but for now it will be housing my hand knit socks. So that was my first purchase at Fibre East, my hipster basket. But I did make a yarny purchase as well. Now this purchase, I have to admit, was quite heavily enabled by lovely Ellie of the Skein Deer podcast. Now, if you don't watch Ellie's podcast or follow her on Instagram, you are an utter fool. I'm completely joking, but you really should check out both her podcast and her Instagram. She is incredible. She is an amazingly prolific knitter. In particular, she specialises, I would say, in colourwork knitting. And the thing that drew me to her initially is the amount of mittens that this girl knits. Oh my goodness. She is a machine when it comes to colourwork mittens, and every single pair that she knits are beautiful. Now, before even going to Fibre East and before knowing that Ellie was going to be there, I was considering purchasing some yarn for some colourwork mittens, because the one thing that I don't really have in my stash is slightly more toothier, non-superwash wools, which I know are preferable when it comes to colourwork, because having something that's got a little bit more bite to it is really helpful when it comes to colourwork, because the yarn sticks to each other a little bit more. It's not too slippery, so it makes the colourwork process a lot more enjoyable. And mittens felt like a good way to go in terms of getting back into colourwork, because I so enjoyed knitting the pair of mittens that I took to New York with me earlier this year. And although those were knit with merino yarn, I thought I really want to knit some non-superwash colourwork mittens. And there are a couple of patterns online that I really like. I was very much on the hunt for some lovely yarn to make some fun mittens in the lead up to autumn and winter. Particularly because my commute now involves me doing a fair bit of walking between stations and that type of thing. I always want to make sure I have cosy fingers, and mittens are preferable to me over gloves. Don't know why, I just prefer them. So, long story short, when I realised that Ellie was at Fibre East, I told her I'd been wanting to do some colourwork mittens, and she pointed me in the direction of Midwinter Yarns. And Midwinter Yarns do sell an incredible variety of yarns, they do beautiful project bags. I know Nathan of Sockmatician podcast is always getting these incredible vintage fabric project bags from Midwinter Yarns, and so I knew them by reputation, although I had never purchased from them previously. But one yarn that they did end up having at their stall was Tukuwool. I hope that's how you pronounce it. Tuku wool. And it is 100% Finnish wool. It comes in 50-gram skeins, and I ended up picking up 4 skeins of this gloriousness. I cannot tell you how excited these colours make me. So these were the colours that I picked up first of all, this beautiful grey blue and the natural. And if I could tell you how good these smell, so kind of sheepy but really clean as well. So this colour is Sake, S-A-K-E, and this is Aava, A-A-V-A. I'm going to massacre all of these names, I'm sure, but they are this gorgeous non-superwash yarn. They're very toothy, you know, putting them against the face. This is not something that you'd want on your kind of more delicate skin, and if you are quite irritated by rough yarns, then this may not be the kind of best thing for sensitive skin areas, but for mittens it is perfect. And to be perfectly honest, I'm pretty sure that this is the kind of wool that will soften both with wear and after blocking. So this is the colours that I picked out first for a very particular pattern that I had in mind. If you want to look it up, it is the How Cold Is It mittens, but bear in mind it does use a little bit of naughty language. I myself am not offended by more fruity language, but I know that some people are, so please bear that in mind if you do end up looking up that pattern. But I did want a slightly cooler colour tone for that pattern, so I picked up these. The other colours that I picked up were actually for I believe it's called Oh Dear pattern by the same designer, and I picked up this lovely russet gorgeousness here and another natural colour. However, the longer that I've been looking at these, there's only one thing that comes into my mind. Those of you who know me well will probably know what this colour scheme reminds me of. Pumpkin spice lattes. And so I have this crazy idea of taking one of the mitten charts that I have purchased and adapting the colourwork in the front to be in some way pumpkin spice latte themed, because these colours just scream pumpkin spice latte as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know when that's going to happen or if that's going to happen, but I really, really, really want to make it happen, because I just know that that would just make me ridiculously happy. Now, I have been doing some searching online for kind of similar things, pumpkin spice latte, colour work or cross stitch, because, you know, at least if you can see a chart, it's relatively easy to convert it. But as I can see so far, no one seems to have done something like that. If you have any information on something similar, if that's ever something that you've seen, please send it my way, because even if I just use it as kind of inspiration, that would be really useful. But if not, I may have to just kind of take the bull by the horns and go rogue and do something entirely off the bat myself. I just think that these colours need to be a pumpkin spice latte themed pair of mittens, and that is genuinely something that I would wear to death. So if I could get that started design wise this month, the chances are I may be able to cast it on in September, which is obviously pumpkin spice latte central, and it's my birthday month. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that, but love this yarn. This is obviously another one of the Sake, again S-A-K-E colourways, but this one is called Repo. In case you're interested, but I love them. I'm so happy with them, and they're a very, very different kind of purchase than I usually make, and I love them. They make me super happy. Before we go on to the last section of the podcast, I do have a little so what update. So yesterday was Tilly's baby shower that we had at work, but we also had a sewing evening after hours at the office. One of the benefits of working for a sewing pattern designer is that the studio can very easily be set up for lots of people to sew all at the same time, and it was amazing. I never usually think of sewing as a social activity. It's usually something that I do on my own in this very room, so to kind of be sewing around other people was a real experience. It was very, very fun, but I did actually start a new project. I wanted something relatively simple so that I didn't have to focus too much, because although we were sewing, we were also indulging in a little bit of Prosecco, at least those of us who were not with child were. So I cut out some fabric for a new project, and that is the Meliot. I believe that's how it's pronounced. It is another Deer and Doe pattern, but this one, guys, this Deer and Doe pattern is currently still available, which is a running joke when it comes to my robe bluet, which everybody always wants the pattern for, but it's currently out of stock. This pattern is still available. It's basically this really cute drop-shouldered shirt, and the version that I was making was the short sleeve version. So yes, the short sleeve version, but instead of the Mandarin collar, I do enjoy a Peter Pan collar, so I am combining those two versions into one. I didn't get a huge amount of work done, I must admit. I was more excited about being at the baby shower, about having a cheeky drink, and we also got pizza midway through, so not a huge amount of work was done on this, but all of my pieces are all cut out and ready to go, and I spent the majority of my time working on the front right and front left pieces. So let me show you my fabric. Those of you who have watched before will recognise it. I'm finally using my Rifle Paper Co., my other fabric that I bought in New York in January at the Brooklyn General. Oh my goodness, my brain just went then. At Brooklyn General. So this is cotton and steel fabric, and I absolutely love it. This is actually their more rayon blend. It's so soft and silky and drapey and gorgeous, and I just knew that this would make a really, really lovely loose shirt. So as you can see, this is the right front, and it's got the drop sleeve. So this is basically where the sleeve will go. I've sewn the darts in, so there's a little dart there, and I've also fully sewn the fronts. So as you can see, those are all sewn. There is interfacing inside here. And the other little detail that I have on the left front is this little pocket. As you can see here, it has a pocket sewn on. I didn't pattern match the pocket or anything like that, mostly because I thought if I pattern match it, it's not even really going to show up, but I was restricted in terms of the amount of fabric that I had available for this. I think I bought 1.5 meters, which was pretty much just enough to be able to cut out all of these pattern pieces and just have a very, very small amount of offcut left. But yes, I really love this. In terms of construction, it's mostly sewn together with French seams, which will be my my next kind of little thing to do. There's my pocket, it's so cute. And yeah, I'm gonna be really excited to wear this. It's a little different from my usual style. It's a little bit more relaxed, but I really like that, and I'm very, very happy with the fabric. I've been enjoying using the pattern so far. In terms of construction, there are some details that are actually very similar to the robe bluet, so it doesn't feel completely foreign, even though I've never used this pattern before. And obviously, having used Deer and Doe patterns previously, just the overall style in terms of how everything is laid out and explained feels quite familiar. So yes, I'm really, really enjoying that. And yeah, hopefully this will be finished relatively soon, because I'd like to wear it. So that is everything for all of the kind of crafty content of the podcast this week. I do have one more segment, which is, of course, General Waffle. general waffle. But for this week's waffle, I'm actually going to be taking one of my Dear Katie questions and answering it in a little bit more detail. So for those of you who don't know, Dear Katie is my more interactive segment of the podcast in which I answer questions that have been sent to me via email with the subject title Dear Katie. So please do feel free to send your questions through if you would like to have them possibly answered on the podcast at a later date. But I received a really lovely message recently, and that message was from Mackenzie. So thank you so much, Mackenzie, for getting in touch. I really appreciate that you took the time to email me. And Mackenzie asked, I'm in the process of starting a blog. As I'm setting things up like email and social media though, I'm growing a bit wary. As much as I want to be more involved in the crafty community by sharing my progress and tips, the thought of putting myself out there for the whole internet to see kind of freaks me out. It's not as much criticism as it is privacy. I've only ever had private social media accounts, and while I am keeping all of my blog and personal accounts separate, I still feel a little bit weird about it. I was wondering if you had any of this uneasiness when you decided to start your previous blog. Yes, I used to have a blog, and now your podcast. And if so, how you kind of got over that fear. So again, thank you so much, Mackenzie, for sending me that question. This really stirred something in me, which is why I wanted to take a little bit more time to kind of go through it and unpack it in a little bit more detail in terms of how I feel about this, because I am right there with you, Mackenzie. Oh my goodness, the idea of putting yourself out there on the internet for the world to see freaks me out a little bit too, which you might think is a little bit unusual for someone who hosts a weekly podcast, which is put up on YouTube, but it's true. The need for privacy is something that I think a lot of us can really understand, and the fear of having that privacy taken away is not an unreasonable fear to have, particularly when it comes to things like the internet and social media. Like I said, I completely understand where you're coming from. It may not always come across on the podcast because the way that this podcast is edited is to be entertaining, and if I were being my usual kind of more reserved self, that wouldn't really be too interesting for people to watch. But in my personal life, I am a little bit different than I may come across on the podcast. I am an intensely private person. I need time by myself in order to be social with people. I need to have that balance. It's incredibly important to me, and I find it very difficult that privacy in a lot of ways isn't something that exists anymore for a lot of people, and that's because of the world that we live in, to do with social media and YouTube and all of these amazing things which I love, but it has really skewed our perception of what is public and what is private. You know, a lot of people don't really see the difference between their private life and their public life anymore, because almost everything is public. You know, in many ways, that's great, because I am addicted to Instagram like the next person. I love following people who produce beautiful posts, and I want to catch up with people that I watch on YouTube on a regular basis, whether they be more traditional YouTubers or podcasters or whatever. The kind of rule is, in my experience, the more you share with the world, the more you put out there, the more that people want from you. And I get that, because I've been watching YouTube for years and years. I've grown up with some of the larger YouTube channels, and I absolutely love watching daily vlogs, following someone's day-to-day life, feeling connected to these people that I've never met and probably never will meet. But it's absolutely wonderful getting a little peek into the personal life of someone that you've watched for such a long time that you do feel connected to. And that's one of the beautiful things about having a podcast, about having a blog, about creating a little piece of the internet where people can drop in and share those little snippets of your life and feel connected. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to start this podcast in the first place, because that feeling it's incredible. And I would say In terms of being worried about your privacy and being kind of scared about that, which I do understand, the internet has made us all much more exposed than we ever used to be, but 99% of the people that you will interact with in these kinds of forums are absolutely incredible. I say all the time how much I love and appreciate my viewers and my audience, and I really, really do, because my goodness, I don't have words for how incredible the people who watch this podcast are, and that's you right here watching this podcast. I have been incredibly lucky that up until recently I've never received anything other than love and support and good wishes, and it's only been over the past couple of months that I have become aware that there's more going on online than those lovely people. And that is, unfortunately, there's gonna always be that small percentage, that 1%, who don't see things the way that the other 99% do. I feel that there is a very small percentage of people who think that when you do share a part of yourself online, whether it's for a podcast like this, or whether it's daily vlogging, whether it's Instagram posts on a regular basis, whether it's writing in a blog, that the rules no longer apply to you because you have chosen to share yourself on the internet. This can be difficult, because obviously when you're creating content online, which goes out to a large audience, the relationship cannot help but be one-sided. When you're watching someone or reading someone's posts or looking at someone's tweets on a regular basis, it's not a two-way conversation. It's you absorbing the information that's being given to you and feeling that you have a connection with this individual, which, like I say, I totally understand. I am there with you on that. But assuming that that relationship is two-sided is when things get more complicated and can get a little bit more difficult. Because I have experienced more recently certain people, that tiny percentage, like I said, very small. The majority of people are not like this, but they feel you're not entitled to the same amount of privacy as anybody else. They often feel that you need to be sharing more than you currently are. Like I said, that need to kind of consume more information from a source that you really like, and that they are entitled to more of your time and your kind of attention than they are currently getting. Now, let me stress, as I have said, this is a tiny little bit of the huge whole. And I genuinely think that fear for your own privacy and your own, your own personal space when you're putting yourself out there is generally not needed. The majority of times you're not going to come across people that make you feel uncomfortable when it comes to keeping things personal. But I do have a couple of little tips just in case you're ever in a situation where this type of thing starts happening and you feel in any way uncomfortable. Number one, never share anything more than you are comfortable with. If you just want to write posts about different makes that you have made, so different knit projects, different sewing projects, crochet projects, whatever, if that's all you want to share, then that is fine. If you do want to be a little bit more personal, maybe share friendships, maybe share things that are going on in your personal life, that's fine as well. But you are the person who gets to draw that line as to what you are comfortable with sharing online and what you're not comfortable with. No one is entitled to anything more than you are comfortable to give. And as long as you keep saying that to yourself, it will give you a lot of clarity when it comes to situations where you may be made to feel that you are not enough in some way. Number two, and this is something that you actually already talked about, Mackenzie, but I think it's a really good point, and that is to keep your personal and your blog social medias separate. by clearly setting up that your blog has an Instagram feed, has a Twitter feed, or whatever social media that you want to use, and then not actively sharing your personal account in that same area, you're already creating yourself a safe space to still have social media just with your kind of close friends, with your family, where you can share more intimate things without having to worry about that information going out to a wider audience. And again, it's really helpful to your audience to know where they can interact with you in a way that you are going to feel comfortable and happy and safe. And number 3, this is slightly more extreme, but I do think that it needs to be said. Please, please remember that if in any way you are made to feel uncomfortable or unsafe in terms of interactions that are going on via social media in particular, the blocking tools are there for a reason, and you shouldn't feel bad about having to use them. All of the big social media platforms, including places like YouTube where you can comment, will have ways where you don't have to see or interact with people who make you feel uncomfortable. And although some people think that it's extreme, I personally think that your own sense of happiness and well-being, particularly when you're creating content that is not designed to make money or produce a huge amount of income, but to be honest, regardless, if someone online is making you feel uncomfortable, then there's no real reason why you shouldn't at least mute somebody or possibly even block somebody. Like I said, this is something that's more extreme, that is not something that I think that you'll be doing on a regular basis, but know that it's there if you need it. So yes, in conclusion, I would say remember that the majority of the time, the people that you will interact with, particularly within the knitting community, within the crafting community, are going to have really, really positive intentions at heart. So in general, just try and stay open-minded and remember that this is a tiny, tiny fraction of people who may be problematic. But in general, you just do what is good for you, and if people aren't happy with sticking within those parameters, then to be honest, they're probably not the type of people that you would want around anyway. Thank you again so much, Mackenzie, for your question. I hope that my little kind of waffly talk has helped a little bit, but best of luck with your new blog. Mackenzie's blog is called Cotton and Chamomile, so do head over and share her some love and check out her blog if you would like to. And yeah, best of luck with it, Mackenzie. I hope it all goes really well. That is everything from me this week, you guys. I said it was going to be a little bit of a smaller episode. I didn't have a huge amount to share, but I will be back again next Friday. And I do have a little bit of exciting news, and that is Emrys will definitely be on the podcast next week. We were desperately trying to do a film review for this week, but our schedules unfortunately have not aligned so that we have time to film. But we will be getting that done in the next week, and we'll be talking about a lot of movies that we've seen, and I'm so excited to have him back. So for anyone who has missed him and his kind of appearances on the podcast, he will be back soon. Keep your eyes peeled for next week's episode, and yeah, there may even be a little bit of Roly Pug in there as well. But for now, from me to you, I hope you all have an incredible week. Thank God it's Friday, huh? Because I now have weekends and I can appreciate the joys of weekends like the majority of other normal people, which is great. But whether or not you do work or don't work on the weekend, I hope that you have an incredible week filled with all of the good stuff, lots of knitting, lots of sewing, lots of crafty goodness, possibly some movies. I'm going to get my hair cut this evening, so that's exciting, but I'm sending you all loads and loads of love, and I will see you really, really soon.